Recording. Hello, Shannon. Good morning. Hey, uh, I'm very happy that we are chatting now together.
You
Mm,
too.
I joined Emerson, last Sunday,
Yeah,
and you popped up, and something was coming up. Just simply feel free to connect with you. And I think it's cool that you're in a way of just reacted like this. And here we are now.
yeah,
Uh, a cool chat between friends, I would say. And
yeah,
yeah, so I'm in a way curious also about your stories, whatever. It doesn't matter. You can simply, if you want,
yeah,
tell. Just let's chat. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I'm curious too. Kind of, where, like, what was it that, what was it that made you want to connect with me too? I'm curious. Like, what was it that, like, you're like, oh, like,
It's funny. It was so short.
yeah,
You were already talking. I came from the kitchen. I just saw you, and you were kind of were kind very direct. The directness and the openness in a way. And then you mentioned also about your job a little bit. So I don't know. It's I
yeah,
really can't tell you. And there
yeah,
was drive to just, hey, come on, because of the openness. Maybe the
yeah,
yeah. I
yeah,
guess this is the point. But it was very short, a very quick
yeah,
moment.
yeah,
And yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think, so part of my story, and I think it's funny because I thinking a lot more about stories and my story and everybody's stories, right? And all of the bullshit, right? And thinking a lot about how I can't trust any of it, right? Like even my own, right? And I think about, oh, what is this? What is this? I don't understand, what any of it. I can't trust it. And it doesn't matter, right? Like cuz this doesn't care if I trust it or not, right? Like
Totally,
this doesn't give a shit,
totally,
right?
totally. Absolutely. But maybe you
But
can.
yeah, yeah,
How did you came to Emerson? What?
yeah. So I will, yeah, I'll give you more background. Yeah. So so I came to Emerson, I think, through the algorithm as being a seeker. I have been I think the biggest I can tell you I probably, have been seeking for a long time, having been someone as a child even who had kind of various sort of quote unquote experiences and more kind of was a very introverted child, very sensitive, very like was the type of kid who stuck home, right? I was very much like clingy, I would say, like with
Mhm,
my parents, and was felt more safe at home and like
mhm.
that kind of thing. And
Yeah.
like once I was launched into the world as a young kid, like felt I don't know, very on the outside, right? And felt like, just that way. I grew up Catholic in a very small parochial school and was always drawn to like that sort of spiritual kind of stuff, right? So I feel like the seeking began very early. Had like a lot of sort of even existential sort of questions at young ages and things. So that started early, always sort of the seeking stuff. I remember even probably in my God early 20s reading things like Conversations with God,
Mhm,
those types of things, like getting into Carl Jung, like that kind of stuff.
mhm.
But what triggered this really deeper seeking most recently is when my father died in January of 2022.
I'm sorry.
And the day there was a whole thing with that, but the day after he died, I had this big fucking boom like experience,
Okay.
right? Yeah, where the heavens opened up and like everything, the download of like, everything kind of felt opened up,
Okay.
it felt
Mhm.
like plastic wrap had been pulled off of like the world and sort of like everything was the same, but something had been sort of revealed, right? Of like, yeah, that sort of unconditional love and like,
So there was to put it in other words, like kind of an opening due to this suffering, maybe to this pain. My
yes,
mother also died,
okay,
like for I don't know. It's not, but here
I
is,
know,
but it was also kind of a crucial thing, let's say like this. But it was constantly on. She died on cancer, so
mhm,
I knew, and this was a process in a way, which made
okay,
me, because she was my best friend. Uh,
yeah,
Simply the pain was there the whole time, and this made me in a way open even more and
yeah.
more. And with you, it was like, was it abrupt or was
It
it like,
was abrupt. Yeah. My dad was sick for he went into the hospital um and then within a month he died. It was not expected. He died
not
of
expected?
COVID actually.
Okay, yeah,
It was one of those ICU deaths and he was
yeah,
separated and it was awful. There was a whole
okay.
drama with that and
So a
it was
shock. It was kind of a shock.
shock. Yep.
Mm,
And there
mm,
was a lot of personal drama that had been going on and me
yeah,
pulled into it. And it was a really, one of those things. And it was especially difficult for me due to what had been going on with my position in his death, being a doctor in the family, the first doctor, like this whole thing, right? This whole story,
mm.
right?
Okay, so you were a doctor, and okay,
Yeah, yeah. And so there was that added sort of drama pulled
okay,
into it, and like me trying to like kind of do even more, but couldn't, like with my dad being isolated in the ICU and nobody could get into there. And it was a lot of pain, right? So when
Was
he
there
died,
was
I
there
had
was
like,
there was there in a way, when he died, was there afterwards, what feeling was there? Was there in a way also guilt or something like,
oh, immense,
yeah, okay.
immense,
Because
immense,
here in my story too, guilt
yeah.
was one of the major, so low like
Oh, guilt,
feeling
shame,
very, how is it called when you feel like you're not, unworthiness, a
yes,
huge sense of unworthiness. I have no idea why, for no
yeah,
reason. And then
yeah,
I stopped with professional tennis, like having guilt of, even though my parents said nothing, I felt so guilty, like how can I now, like just stop. Just shortly here, it's this was a great issue here also, yeah.
yes, yes. I felt so much guilt, so much shame. I wanted to leave medicine. I felt that I let my dad down. I felt like what was the whole point of even becoming a doctor? Like I had come up in the family where I was the first one to go to college, let
Yeah,
alone to become a doctor. And it was
yeah,
like at my dad's most needs, like at most needy, right?
yeah,
I couldn't do the thing and my dad was so proud of me
yeah.
becoming a
Oh,
doctor. It was this whole
this is
thing.
really hard. This is really
Oh,
fucking hard.
it was so
Totally,
fucking hard. And it was just
totally.
that whole fucking story. I had
Yeah,
PTSD from this. And the whole month that he was in the hospital, I wasn't sleeping. I was on the phone constantly. I was getting paged by
yeah,
doctors. This was in a hospital that I was affiliated with. And
okay.
I had all of this guilt because when he went into the hospital, it was like, Dad, go to this hospital because they will take care of you.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
those were words that I said to him, and
yeah,
I didn't know what care he was getting.
yeah,
It was horrible, and I
yeah,
felt like I should have done more. I couldn't. I wanted. It was my professional identity.
yeah,
Everything I
totally.
was questioning. I was questioning everything, and I was like, "What is the fucking point of any of this?" And
This
when
is in
nothing.
a way, this is in a way a total abrupt, like also senselessness,
Yes,
like black hole,
completely. Yeah,
like
yeah,
everything is
yeah,
collapsing, all your
yeah.
belief structure, everything is collapsing.
Absolutely. My identity and like at the end of and after all of that they wouldn't let us in to see him through all of it. And me even being a doctor affiliated with the hospital, they wouldn't let me in there. It was horrible. But then at the end when they said he's dying, we can't do any more, then they let us come in. And it was so bizarre to me. They said, "Oh, now you can come at the end of his life." and you can have 10 people come into the ICU now. And I was so angry and I couldn't believe it. And it was me and my mom that went there at the end when they pulled the tube, and my mom and we were both there. My mom couldn't stay to the very end. She couldn't manage it, and I
Yeah.
wouldn't leave. I said, there is no way that I'm leaving my father now.
Yeah.
Like I had this, she stepped out of the room. I stayed to the very end when they pulled
Yeah.
the tube out. I
Yeah.
would not leave his side. I held his hand
Yeah.
when that line, when he finally died and he flatlined, I let out this guttural sound that I've never ever had come out of my body. It was like an animal sound. It was more like a mother in the wild losing her young. I mean, it was like this like battle cry of a sound. And that was, and it really, and in the story, right? Like that's kind of what it was in a way, because that sound and that flat line and that his death like set off this something, right?
Yeah.
It just set off this something that
Yeah.
really, holy shit,
Yeah.
and it really like, wow, what a freaking story, and I was in such utter despair,
Absolutely.
absolutely despair,
Yeah.
just like, what is the
Yeah.
fucking point
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
anything,
Yeah.
any of it? It made no sense. Nothing made
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, absolutely. But sweetheart, here everything is a story. Everything is a story. No
Yeah,
escape. No fucking escape.
no escape,
What
right?
happened in this very heavy situation there?
What's that? What
What happened?
happened?
What happened
Yeah.
then?
So then, so then the very next day, right? I'm in total despair. I took a walk in freezing cold. It was January, and utter despair. It was like this horrible, horrible, cloudy, cold day. But I took a walk. Um, Towards the end of my walk, I it was like coming onto sunset, and I had this sense to just turn towards the sunset. It was cloudy and cold, but like it seemed like the clouds were starting to part, and I just, something said go this way and not that way. I went the other way, right? So I went towards this elementary school where there was this baseball diamond, and I went that way, and literally the clouds parted. Like
Mhm.
it was, yeah, it was like that that
Like
moment
in
of
the movie.
like in a fucking movie. And this was, the clouds parted, the sun was setting, Venus was in the western sky. I felt that it was that the unconditional love. I felt this like download of information kind of thing, like when you're in a dream, right? Like you can't put words to it. It
Yeah.
was like this, like I had this, the universal love, like that thing of like when you tell people who you're trying to explain this to and you can't explain
Mm,
it. And you
mm,
say love and they're like, oh, that sounds nice. And you're like, no, you don't fucking get it. When I say love, I mean love. I mean love.
brutal love.
Oh man, like you don't
Unconditional love.
know. You don't know. Like you could have, somebody could have come up to me and put a gun to my head and
Yeah.
blown my brains out. I would not have cared because I knew it's all okay. It's
Yeah.
all love. Like it
Yeah.
was like all love. So the
Yeah.
sunset, the sky had parted. I turned around. This was also the night of the wolf moon. I turned around and there was the big fucking wolf moon, and I literally like felt like holy shit, like I was struck by the fucking moon, and I was like, you gotta be and I just immediately was in like these tears of gratitude. That's all that I felt, was this feeling of love and gratitude.
Wow. Mm.
And like every, I felt like I weighed nothing, like I was lighter than air. I felt full of love. It felt like I said, like there was a plastic wrap over the whole world that had been like just peeled off to reveal like what was really there all the time. And I like, it felt like I floated home. And I came home and it was like, you know, like I'm a person on, you know, on drugs and love, 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 love. Coming home, this person in fucking despair comes home, right? And my daughter, I'm pulling her outside in the January cold, going, look at the moon. Look at the beauty. Look at this love. Oh my God. Oh my God. Look at the love. Come out here. Look at the love. Oh my God. You know, I'm just like crying and love, love. Oh my God. She's looking at me like I'm fucking nuts, right? What did you go off and smoke, Mom? You know?
Are you smoking?
No,
Okay.
no.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's what she's looking at me like that.
Yeah,
Like
totally.
nothing. Yeah. Like what did you go do?
Yeah.
You know, her grandfather just died the day before. She saw me just in despair, like
Mm,
like
mm,
heavy load, literally heavy,
mm,
walking out that door
mm,
hours earlier, come home and I'm like,
mm.
everything is love. Oh my God, come out here and look at the moon. This is fucking beautiful. Like, there's nothing to worry about. I love you. Everything's beautiful. Like, I can still feel, now I can feel it. Like, it's like I can conjure that feeling right here, right now.
Mm.
But that did not last, right? That did not
So
last.
tell me, what about your mother? How is she? How
Well,
was
oh boy, my mother, angry.
and
Everything that happened, she's full of a lot of anger over what happened to my dad.
is she blaming you in a way?
No, no,
Okay,
not
good.
me.
This
No,
I
not
wanted.
me.
Okay, good. Very good.
Thank God,
Very
right?
good.
But it was a big, it's been weird though because it was blaming of like the hospital system, the medical system. So it's weird to be in that position of being the doctor. Well, this
Mm,
is also part of my identity. So it's caught up in a lot of that. Still, though, I'm feeling that guilt. No, she's not blaming me, but it's all the medical system, medical, the hospital. It's like, well, that's part of my identity, part of me too. It was very, it's
very
all
good.
this bullshit, right? So it was a lot of pain, a lot of fucking
Oh,
pain, a
absolutely.
lot of family dynamics that were like, what the fuck, you know?
Absolutely.
And I have an older brother who kind of like kept himself out of it. So that
Mm.
was kind of fucked up where it was like, well, where are you in this? Well, he's just kind of over here, not really in it.
But it's good because it's maybe too much for him, you know?
Yeah,
It's the
yeah,
protective mechanism to take
yeah,
him out because it's too much.
too
And
much. Yeah,
I mean perfection in action. No one in it, no
yeah,
choice in this. The characters plays beautifully out.
yeah.
And what happened after this like seeing that everything is love, so to say?
Right, yeah. So that feeling and that love and all of that lasted for a while, but only like maybe a week or so, right? Until then, kind of that the despair started to creep back in.
Yeah.
Like PTSD type symptoms started to come up because of like what had happened while my dad was in the hospital, and like I started to not have sleep, because I started to have those feelings of like when he was in the hospital, when I wasn't sleeping and getting pages and calls and things like that, and that guilt and that shame
Okay.
and the depression, like all of that started to come back up again. And
Okay.
I started to have these like deep, yeah, that guilt again and the
Yeah.
regret and this like connection to my father started to really build up. Because my dad and we weren't like close in a typical way, like where
Mm.
we talked about things and we had like that close relationship like that, but
Mm.
we were like, we were similar in very deep other ways
Yeah.
where that was something like there was something in me that felt like I
Yeah.
had to be sort of protective of him, and we had a lot of similar qualities about each other.
Yeah.
And so there was a lot there that was like building up, and that
Yeah.
I was feeling like, yeah, just this great sense of grief still.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then just a lot of that like existential shit, and a lot of that though, like what the fuck was that happened, right? And like really digging into those like bigger questions and
Yeah.
getting more into the non-duality shit and more of like
Was it
asking.
when did you first hear about non-duality, or what was your approach
It was before that,
for
actually.
that? Okay.
um because before that, when my dad was going through like the COVID, the COVID in the hospital and stuff, and I had been listening to like Z-Dog MD, who had he's a doctor and he has a podcast and all of this, and like he's into some of this stuff with meditation and non-duality kind of stuff. And he had this other doctor who wrote this book. I don't know if you know of Angelo
Yeah,
DeLulo.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Angelo, this the guy with the beard, Angelo
yeah.
Delune,
I think he's got a beard, maybe. He
Angelo
just simply always awake.
yeah, yeah.
I
It's
know.
it's
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. I
yeah,
know him.
yeah,
I know.
yeah.
I'm not watching him, but he
You
popped
know.
up a couple of times also with Emerson there in the
Yeah,
chat. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So I had heard Angelo like on Z Dog's podcast like a few times before, right? And so it was like interesting that this kind of all kind of tie together, because I'm listening to Z Dog with COVID stuff and he's talking to Angelo. But it
Mm-hmm.
was like, and it piqued my interest because I had these interests prior,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it was kind of like background shit for me. It was always like, oh, I'm stressed out. I need to do mindfulness. I need to do meditation. Back also to my existential shit from when I was younger and my seeking before, with like, I had tapped into briefly, yeah, conversations with God, or I had looked into Eckhart Tolle when I was younger. These things
Mm.
had always been popping up here and there and here and there.
Yeah.
Course in Miracles, I remember checking out from the library at one point. Like all these things I'm remembering now too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like trying to think back of like, oh shit, yeah, actually I've been seeking this shit for way
Yeah.
longer than like these things are like, oh yeah, actually
Yeah.
I did do that like a
Yeah.
while ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
But this is so interesting that this is how this had played out. So then that thing happened, and then I go into
Yeah.
despair.
Yeah. Shannon, I call it perfection in action.
There you
Life
go.
makes no mistakes. And it's
Right.
always the right fucking timing, no
It's
matter
true.
what.
Right? Right. I mean, this, right? How could just play out anymore, right? Like how, right?
Hmm.
So, yeah. So here we go. So then I had that experience. I'm like, all this shit going on. So then I start listening more. Angelo starts popping up more on Z Dog. I'm listening to this more. Then I'm going on like the Facebook group that he had, but then more and more going, got his book, go more, but more and more I'm going on his YouTube because he's got a lot of stuff on YouTube. So then now YouTube starts, right? So then now I'm digging into the video. Then I'm like deep diving into YouTube.
Yeah.
That's where this really, really then
Yeah.
jumps off. So it was
Yeah.
really then right
Very
on. So I
intensive.
would say,
It's very, very intensive because one
oh,
video leads to the other. This topic, this idea, follow
boom,
this.
boom,
It's
boom,
very, yeah.
boom,
Yeah.
boom, 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 boom. I mean,
Totally.
it's good. It's good. That YouTube man, boom, boom, boom. And I am full in all the time. It got me.
Yeah.
But also I was suffering, and also I didn't know what the fuck that was that happened, but
Yeah.
I knew what the fuck it was, and I had no doubt about it. Like I
Yeah.
knew. And it was interesting because there were a lot of people too, when I was trying really, really hard too to try to explain to people like this happened, this happened. And I would have a lot of people too, like on forums or on the Facebook group or things like that, who would try to tell, like, almost like I joked with Emerson when I did a one-on-one with him. I said there were a lot of people trying to Zen splain me, I called it, Zen splain, you know, like tell me what my experience is, you know? And it was like, it just fucked me up sometimes, you know, because it was like, well, I don't know what's going on, and like getting like led to all these different places and feeling like, I don't know, it was just, it was fucked up, you know. So then I'm like, so then I'm really like doubtful and like, I, you know,
when did you had the one-on-one with Emmy?
so with him was just within the last, so within the last month, probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I finally did the one-on-one with him because I was like, enough of this bullshit. Like I've been going down the rabbit hole.
You know
I,
what I noticed? I noticed because I know Emmy now over 3 years.
yeah,
And and I noticed that really like the people who are resonating with him and going then in one-on-one with him, they are simply done.
yeah,
They have no, they cannot anymore go for this bullshit. See, they are done.
done.
They're totally exhausted.
Yeah,
And then seeing Emerson with his booming, joyful openness, just saying, what a bullshit.
yeah,
What? Just completely
yeah,
like a rebel in this. This is just like, yeah, okay,
yeah,
thank you
yeah.
very much. That's it.
Yeah, he cuts through all of it, right? But with compassion too, right?
No, a
It's
full on,
beautiful.
like a small child, innocence at play.
Right,
So beautiful. So
right,
beautiful. I'm just
right.
like, I love the energy. I love the vibe. I simply,
I know. Me too. And it's like, no, he doesn't tell you like you gotta go do some fucking shadow work or like energy or like, oh, you're so contracted or like, no,
and it's
no,
so cool. He has been through
I know.
all of this bullshit. That's why there is this thing coming out like, oh, come on, please don't. Like he gave the example, if you have been into hell,
Yeah.
wouldn't you, when you see someone on the way to hell, wouldn't you just say, stop, come
Stuff.
on, hello?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, yeah,
Right. And
yeah.
that's where I was at when I booked my one-on-one with him. And it was, like you said, perfection in action because I was at the point of trying to, I knew that I needed to be one-on-one with someone. And I
Yeah.
had been reaching out to other people of like, I was there. I was saying to people, I said, I know that I was saying to people, I said, I'm at the place where I know that, like, if I'm landing on something that's bullshit, I know that,
Yeah,
but I'm seeing the shit
yeah,
ramping up, and it's like getting louder and horrible, and
yeah,
I need someone who's gonna cut through the bullshit and be
yeah,
real with me, but I
yeah,
can't find someone. And then
yeah,
I would have people try and suggest to me to like do like emotion shit and blah,
yeah.
and I'm like, I've fucking been through that. Like I'm done. I need someone to cut through the bullshit.
Yeah. This is, you see, there is no, you simply naturally, the body, the body mind system, everything here, the whole complex naturally resonates with this music channel. And not with the music channel, confront your feelings, go through your emotion,
Yeah,
which is this too, of course. Everything is it. But
yeah,
you see how
yeah,
straight this goes, like, no, 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 no.
no,
This year. And
yeah,
you see how beautiful this plays
yes,
out. Like you, yeah, perfection in action. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're totally right. Because I'm looking and looking for someone, and yeah, I wasn't being led, I didn't feel I was being led in the right place. And then all of a sudden, boom, I'm
How
like,
was it? How was
Emerson, it was like
it?
some of the shorts that Emerson was doing, and I was like looking at that, and I did see something that he had with Angelo, and I know he had popped up on some like older like non-dual isn't the non-dual media stuff, because more recently I had started to get to like earlier on I wasn't as into like the radical stuff, right? But then more recently,
Do you know Tony Parsons, Jim
yeah,
Newman, Kenneth, you know
yeah,
them. So
yeah, and more like
Emmy was like, when he saw that it's about nothing, he simply wasn't able to talk. He simply was doing the whole with the COVID time. He was
Right.
offering the space. The also the he is kind of he knows how this works with Zoom and blah. He was
Yeah.
offering in a way very very kindly, beautifully the space for the speakers and being in the background. And yeah, this was a lot of interviews he did, a lot of chats, a lot of
Yeah.
stuff is there, a lot of material. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I know, yeah, and so like early on in my like I don't want to say early on, but like early after my experience, after my dad died, I what the radical stuff wasn't landing for me,
Yeah.
right? So I
Yeah.
was kind of like, oh, I don't know, like it was just
Yeah.
kind of it was like
Yeah.
off the mark. It felt
Yeah.
cold, it felt weird, it felt
Yeah.
like I don't
Yeah.
get, I don't know about this. So I
Yeah.
was more in the awareness camp. So
Yeah.
then I was
Yeah.
like, the Muji, Gangaji, the old Papaji shit, the Rupert
Yeah.
Spira, I'm like doing the awareness stuff,
I know.
the soft stuff, right?
I know.
And
I
then,
know.
of course,
There
Angela's
is still
stuff.
someone who wants to do something to
Yeah,
improve yourself,
right.
and this goes until you see
Yeah,
until this story gets so fucking brutally heavy,
yeah,
like with your father, the guilt,
yeah.
that is no bullshit anymore.
No bullshit
No
anymore.
bullshit anymore.
Yeah,
Just go straight
yeah,
for it. It's this
yeah,
already.
yeah. And I had done, I actually, I even enrolled, I was in a clinical trial with psilocybin that dealt with like this grief thing. So I did like the psychedelic shit even. So that
Wow.
was like, so I went through that, which was like, okay, and that was wild. That like dealt with like this whole, oh my God, like I could tell you some
Okay.
stories,
I
right,
have
with my
not
dad.
experienced psychedelic shit, but
Right. I
okay.
know. So there was like that. And then like I mean, and this all like it's like this whole like condensed like here, let me give you everything possible. Like
Yeah.
boom, 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 right? And
Mm.
then more recently then the radical stuff started to land for me
Oh,
because it was like then because you strip shit down, right? So
yeah.
then I'm like, oh, Jim Newman, Tony Parsons. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. So then I'm jumping on that
Yeah.
train a little bit more. And then that's where I start to see more of Emerson's
Yeah.
stuff. And then I see some of his shorts and like, his newer things. And then I'm
Yeah.
like, ooh,
Yeah.
oh, who is
Yeah.
this guy? And
Yeah.
then I'm asking around, more and people like looking for a one-on-one. And then they're leading me in these other directions that don't feel right. And then I'm watching his one-on-ones and I'm like, oh, fuck, this guy, this
Like,
guy.
so simple, right? So
Yeah.
simple, so direct.
Right. And I'm like, what the fuck is everybody else doing? Why are they so, oh, like, what the,
I was
what the
here,
fuck? Why
Shannon,
did everyone fuck
Shannon,
up my
Shannon,
ass so
exactly,
much?
Shannon, exactly this year, like this, how is it called in German, in Sätzen, like being completely like in, oh my gosh, this happened when I wasn't anymore able to play with this awareness bullshit.
Right.
And I was like, I totally liked my teacher, so to say. I've never had a teacher, but
Right.
he called himself a teacher. For me, it was always like friends. But
Yeah.
I could not understand because I felt like one with him, totally matching the vibe.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, I already knew Emerson. With him, I also felt the same frequency, but it was completely the. And then I was like, how can you do this? How can you bullshit the people like this? You know it better, you simply
Yeah.
know it's about nothing. How can you go and of course, and then, but after this, how can you? I saw very quickly, I met Xander, and I saw, well, everything is it. Calling yourself a teacher, teaching awareness in a way we can say bullshitting, but it's innocence, it's play,
It
it's not
is.
bullshitting. Can you
Yeah.
remember when this was helpful for you, the
Yeah.
awareness stuff?
Yeah.
So this is you see, perfection. There is no wrong, no right. So yeah,
Right.
not yeah, this was for
Yeah.
me. Oh,
I know. I know I know, right? It's like,
Yeah.
oh my God. But it's
Yeah.
just like you see that and you're like, oh man, like,
Totally,
oh
totally.
my
And
God.
so you saw then Emerson, and hey girl, let's go, let's reconnect again. We don't have to go for the whole, we just simply see and continue with Emerson. Cool. See you in
Okay.
part number 2, girl.